Good morning, Brokers Playbook. Good morning to beautiful Ottawa, and good morning, Rachel Hammer. How are you?
I'm doing great, Simeon. How are you today?
I'm really good. I want to thank you for coming on today and agreeing to discuss, to talk about your story and to really shed some light on a very popular subject right now, and one that's very important to many brokers, whether they're in the mortgage business or the real estate business. We do kind of share the same scale model. So after a few years in the business, a lot of people find it very difficult to compete because we've kind of entered a world of teams, super teams, mega teams, and to the average agent or to the lone agent, meaning that they're building a brand just around their names. At some point, they're going to run into team members of bigger and stronger infrastructure, and they have to compete. So, and that typically brings on the conversation to themselves or in an internal thought process of what can I do to grow my team, or what's next for me. So the number one question that I get from agents coming onto my team is, why did you start a team? What's in it for you? Should I join your team or should I start a team, kind of thing. And the conversation goes in many directions. Not everybody's built to be on a team, and not everybody's built to definitely start a team. So why don't you take the next few minutes, Rachel, and just tell us a little bit about your story. When did you get started? How did you get started? And what your next steps were in your business.
So I started back in 2003 when I purchased my first property. I'm very young, called a listing agent. This huge character came out of the car, told me everything I wanted to hear. We bought the house from her, negotiated it to a really low price. She called me all the names in the book, thinking I'd never get it, as she was in a multiple representation situation. And sure enough, not only did I get it, but she turned around and said to me, "Why don't you come work for me?" Now, I was a social worker, so my background in sales is selling chocolate bars when I was, in elementary school. So I had no sales background, nothing. And this idea of becoming a realtor just kind of scared me a little bit. I was a social worker with the government of Ontario, had a good job, pension, stability. I wasn't ready to leave. However, things happen, right? And so sure enough, I decided on the side to get my real estate license. And while I got my license, I actually shadowed this amazing realtor who was in the business for 40 plus years, had a team of her own selling luxury homes here in Ottawa, and got my license, worked for her for 5 years, part-time, while I worked also full-time in the government, which is a way a lot of people do start in this business, right? Part-time realtors attempting to get out of their full-time jobs because they're scared of that stability and that security. And yet so many of them choose to go and work on their own, which I think creates a lot more instability, especially in real estate. So it's sometimes interesting to see the way we all start in this business, worried about how to get started, but not seeing the full potentials of what a team can actually provide us, which is that stability and that security in the leads and in the business. So
tell me a little bit about your thought process. So you started working on a team.
Yes.
What did you see and what did you learn?
Well, to be honest with you, unlike most people, I started in the business doing my courses and following this realtor for 6 months unpaid. So I did everything for her. I drove her around to her meetings. I did her listing paperwork. I assisted her in every way possible. And what I learned was the technique, the tools, how to convert the leads, how to understand what's a lead and what's a waste of your time, which I think we all see so much of. So a lot of times people think I'm really busy, but are you actually really busy with good clients, or are you with window shoppers who are taking advantage of you? And the vulnerability of feeling the sales world, right? Of 1 minute you get a good sale, it's like a good high, and then all of a sudden it could take weeks and months before you get a sale. So when starting in a team environment, I got the opportunity to see the systems before people could understand what really systems were when you're starting on your own, and understand the validity and the reason why to have them. So, with team meetings, agendas, work-life balance was predominantly about something I got out of being on a team from the get-go. To be honest with you, I think this business is a really lonely business. I actually don't understand why people choose to go out on their own, because there's so much intricacies of our job today, more than it was 30, 40 years ago when people got into this business.
No comparison.
So I was very proud to say that I worked for one of the best teams in Ottawa. And when I decided to go out on my own, it was simply because I think deep down I was the right fit to go out on my own. I was somebody who enjoyed leading and supporting and coaching people. And there were things that I wanted to do, my visions, my values, that I didn't necessarily have in the team that I was on. So go ahead, sorry.
Well, no, I think it's important to know, because as you go back in the past and you say some of these things, I think it's important for our audience. And our audience is made out of real estate brokers and mortgage brokers predominantly, but there are definitely investors, wholesalers, and actually some clients and general public that find it valuable to understand the salesperson's mind frame. So what I want to say to everybody watching, because you're going back in time, but I want to make sure everybody understands where you are today. So for those who don't know, I met Rachel at Royal LePage Canada's annual Chairman's Retreat. And the Chairman's Award is the most coveted. It doesn't have a production limit. It's the top 1 percentile out of 20,000 plus agents in the country. So the top 1 percentile is not bound by, oh, if you hit 100,000 or 500,000 or a million. Every single year, it's up to the collective groups in teams and individuals to hit their new records and their new heights. And it's a moving target. So to make it into the top 1 percentile is extremely difficult to do, and it's a massive feat. And Rachel is in Rachel's team, because it's not Rachel alone and it's not me alone. To be a team leader is one thing, but to run a team, you understand quickly how integral that the team members are, and without them, you would do fuck all, because we can speak that way on Broker's Playbook. If you want to go back to doing your $250 a year, having your Mercedes lease, and being a real estate agent, it's one thing. But to be a team leader is to run a business. To have a team where other people depend on you is a business. So now you're a business owner, not a real estate agent. You're a real estate agent too.
Yes.
So I just wanted to get that out there so people understand kind of the weight behind the words that you're using, and your mindset while you were growing it, because it's important to me and it's important to everyone considering these things to understand your story, how you did it, and if they can take 2 things out of it and make it their own. The whole point of Broker's Playbook is to elevate the game. So I want you to continue, but I really wanted to put kind of the weight behind your words and why you're here out there. So please press on.
Thank you. And I guess from my position, and Simeon, I know you know me a little bit better than most right now, but the awards and the recognition for me has never been important. And you know that, and I know that that's the same for you. It comes from that client-centered approach. It comes from helping people. It's who I am, it's what I love to do. And helping people not just comes from the clients, but it's also my team members. So we're a team of 5 women. We are certainly in the process of recruiting some gentlemen, so please do not take that as the wrong way. But as 5 strong, assertive, confident women, we are very proud of the team that we have designed and developed. We are all about meeting and exceeding our clients' expectations, because that's where we get our referrals. So as I tell most people, which is very different than this typical industry, I don't put my face on any bench or billboard, because when I'm yelling at my children in the grocery store, the last thing I ever want you to say is, oh, look at that, it's Rachel Hammer. So I pride myself on my confidentiality, just like my clients do, right? Especially when you're working in a farming in a neighborhood and everybody knows you know everybody, nobody wants you to be telling everyone's business. And I use that by telling people why I don't put my face on anything. So my name, for example, is a name of the team, but every person on the team gets called Rachel Hammer more times than not. They just go with it because it doesn't matter. It's all about that team approach, and it's all about what's most important, which is the client. So that's something I'm pretty proud of. The awards have come as a natural progression to the hard work that us ladies have done over the last 15 years that I've been licensed. And it really shows testament even now during these unprecedented times where we can't do a lot of mass marketing the way we were doing it. Working by referral and exceeding our clients' expectations has been generating more business than I've ever had before. So I'm very proud of that.
So I was in Montreal a couple of days ago. We had a private conversation, and I'm not going to quote you on your biggest accomplishment, only because it's a personal matter. But I will share with everyone. I want you to share that you've already hit a goal that was ever elusive for you, and it's a monetary one. And it's a production one, and you were telling me because you said, I'll tell you because I know you're happy for me and not a nonsense approach. And I couldn't be more proud for you hitting that goal. Good for you. And you hit it before the end of Q3 of the year.
Thank you.
Talking about mindset, and you talk about unprecedented times. I just, I've heard that word about 6 million times this year. Grosses me out. COVID, economy crisis, earthquake, avalanche, big storm. I don't care what it is. Every year something happens.
Yes, I agree.
So I don't give a fuck to talk about COVID. I don't want to.
No.
COVID is a health crisis, not a housing crisis. People had to adapt and change their lifestyles, and a lot of people got canned. A lot of people got laid off. A lot of people lost a lot. A lot of people gained a lot, just by force of that's what the world is. I know my organization, I know my business partner, Jazz, led the charge on our sales and marketing. I led the charge with her team. My entire team, including my partner who runs the core business between me and him, we're practicing team owners. We don't sit here and talk shit. And we've sold over 75 properties in the last 90 days.
Amazing.
During COVID. So I'm not saying that to impress you or our audience, but to impress upon you and upon our audience that you have to pivot, and you have to pivot quickly.
But I'll take it one step further when we talk about unprecedented times, because the reality is in real estate, and if we truly look at what we do, okay, we help people during those unprecedented times in their lives, whatever that may be. It could be an estate sale from someone, a parent being, passing away, a divorce, separation, whatever the case may be. And I think that when I talk about now this year more than ever, the team approach is so important because people are being emotionally driven. Right? They're being emotionally driven, and as realtors, we are absolutely a huge part of how the economy is continuing to grow in Canada. And so I'm very proud of that. And I think every realtor should be really proud of how much they're helping our economy moving in a positive way and allowing people to still have a choice where they choose to call home even during these times.
It's too easy for us to go off. And we're going off on the mental game already because I started it, so I'm not blaming you.
Let's talk about how the team helps us do this, because we can't do this alone in this market, right, and everything.
Precisely that. So let's go back 1 second. You started. You were on your own, and it doesn't matter. You started Rachel Hammer. Rachel Hammer starts succeeding, working hard, showing homes, delivering service. You're succeeding, you're hitting your goals, 100K, 200K, 300K, whatever. You realize one morning that you're capped because there's only so much one Rachel Hammer can do. When did you decide? It's funny because you said, whoever picks up the phone, is this Rachel? Sure, it's Rachel, because it's the same thing. All 5 of you are on the same page. When did you decide that you needed help? And what was the help you went after first? Did you go after an administrator? Did you go after a buyer's agent? Tell me about your thought process and how that came about.
So when I finally decided to go out on my own after being with a team for 5 years, the first thing I felt that I needed at the time, I was a young mom of 2 boys with a very supportive husband as supporting a real estate agent. The first person I hired was actually a very dual job. She worked part-time in my office doing my paperwork, all the things I hated doing. So right off the bat, when you identify yourself as a team lead, when you are that person who is going to start running a team, the first thing you need to do is hand off the things you don't like doing. And usually the things we don't like doing are the things like paperwork, data input, all those things, uploading it to our brokerages and so forth. So I hired somebody to do that, but at the same time, she was picking up my kids at the daycare, doing my laundry in the house. She was literally the person that did everything. And the reason why I think this is the most important person to bring on, regardless of what industry you're in, is the idea of leveraging your time. If you're a realtor making a 6-digit income who's still cleaning their own house, please stop. There's a person designed who is excited to work in that field of work, okay? Or something else in your world, people who do their own accounting, people who install their own signs. I always say to people, you can't be a master of everything, right? So that's all about leveraging your time. Put a value to your time. What are you worth? Are you worth $75, $100 an hour, and figure out if you're going to clean your house, it's going to take you 3 hours to do it. You could have been getting more business. So the first person was the assistant. Second person was the buyer's agent, okay? As somebody who was running, had family at home, I couldn't be running necessarily around with buyers, right? That takes a lot of time, a lot of work. I love the listing side. I love coaching my sellers. I love preparing my sellers. I love talking about marketing, and most importantly, the psychology of how to strategize to get the most amount of money for your home in the least amount of time.
That's a personal choice now, because you like listing. You identify yourself as a listing broker, which is great. But that's a personal choice. So the number one point for the playbook, because by the end of this conversation, we're delivering a playbook to brokers as to where to go. So it's know your value, get yourself an assistant. This isn't the first time people are hearing this.
Yes, absolutely.
By any means.
Yourself an assistant, there's no question about that. That is your number one thing to do. It will take you further. Every time I brought somebody else on this team, I have gone further ahead in my GCIs, in my volume of units sold, and with my customer service. I was there, I was capable of being available to my clients the more people I brought on. And now we're in a position where we're going to be bringing on even more people, because it's all about the service level, but I want to keep at the highest level possible to generate those continued referrals.
Great. So, and number two is, if you identify yourself as a buyer's broker, stick to that and get a listing broker on your team that's strong. If you're a listing broker, get yourself some buyer brokers to take away the noise that comes with either side, and if it's not what you're strong at. Are you from the mindset of focusing on your strength, or are you from the mindset of strengthening your weaknesses?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I like to focus on my strengths because, and with my team strengths, but more importantly, also, what do they like to do? Because something you might be really good at may not be something you want to do, right? So let's focus on what you want to do and how to make you stronger at doing that. So it's not necessarily a weakness, it's more about what makes you happy.
So that's very interesting. And I bring on my partner a lot because we spend maybe too much time together, not necessarily side by side, but our whole business is focused around so many different verticals. And we've kind of really, each of us, there is no duplicity in our business anymore at all. So we only double and triple down on our strengths and on the things we enjoy. Meaning that even if Jazz was the greatest accountant of all time, that's not in his wheelhouse, so he won't touch it.
Yeah.
So he's only going to do the things that he's passionate about, because then he's never working on it. He's actually just living his best life in it.
Yes.
And that's something that a team enables you to do, and only a team can enable you to do, because you have enough people that you can delegate the work and get to live that passion that you have for listing homes, for coaching somebody on how to get the estate home from looking like somebody passed in it and it hasn't been touched in 10 years to a masterpiece that's going to get them $500,000 above and beyond what their expectations were.
Yes, I agree. You see, I love negotiating. So when people bring me to their house, the first thing they say to me is, where do you think the couch should go? Should I paint this wall? And I look at them right away. I'm like, I'm not a stager. I'm here to represent you on the market to get you the most money possible, and I'm here to negotiate. That's what I love to do. That's my passion, right? And I love coaching people in order to realize the fullest potential in whatever they choose to do on the team as well. So we've moved some of our members on the team over the years to find what meets their needs and their passion. One of the agents on my team who's been with me the longest, it's going to be 9 years this year, is Dana. Dana was actually a mechanical engineer who became a realtor. And so she brings in a full wealth of knowledge, and similar to yourself, Simeon, you know, we're very much like partners in this business in the sense that she brings in a lot of things that I'm not very good at, and I bring in a lot of things that she may not be very good at. So together, 3 of us did it for several years, for about 5 years. And then I brought on another buyer's agent. And now I'm at a point where I have 2 support staff at the office, 2 agents out on the road, as well as myself. And I see the future of how much I want to be involved with the client, because I'm looking at myself now, asking myself, what do I want for the future as well? And I think every realtor should be doing that. We should be focusing on what's your 5-year goal, right? And actually breaking that down, because we all start off with good intentions. We go to the conferences, we hire coaches, but the reality is most of us don't want to be accountable to anyone but ourselves and our clients. And the minute you grow a team, you have people to be accountable to, right? So I think that's really important, is that the more people you have to do what they love to do, even though they have to be accountable for what they do, together it brings a beautiful family in real estate to provide a service to a client.
So how do you hold your team? So do your team members have a goal? Like, do you say you need to do 200K, or you need to do 5 listings? You need to do, what kind of goal setting do you do with your team members? And as a team leader, how do you hold your team accountable?
Well, that's a good point. So I'm going to start off by saying it's not about what you need to do, it's what do you want to do, okay? Because by telling me what you want to do, I'm not enforcing anything that you need to do on the team. So I work very differently than other teams. I don't have my agents cold calling, door knocking. Most of the business, like I said, there are A+ referrals that come directly to us. We have a very beautiful website that generates a lot of attraction. It's got some great, you know, Google reviews, testimonials, and so forth. I am very much a believer that every year there's 2 things we do in the fall time when things hopefully slow down a little bit, is we goal set for the following year. But more importantly, we create a word. And I know this is going to sound interesting, but I actually ask every girl on the team, or every member that is, hopefully there's some gentlemen coming on soon, okay? But I ask everybody to come up with their word for the year. It's the word that they're going to reflect on. It's the word they choose from the year before to identify what has held you back. Was it something personal? Was it something professional? Was it something in the economy? Whatever, okay? And it's a word that brings you into the new year. And so that every time you lose sight of what you really wanted out of that new year, we remind each other in the office, don't forget pace, don't forget balance, don't forget confidence. Those are key words that some of the members of my team have used to express what they wanted out of 2020, okay? So holding each other accountable comes down to just, you know, checking in, right? Asking them how they're doing. How are they finding their clients, right? So it's not just here's a client and go with it. It's how are you doing with your clients, right? Are you gonna reach your goals this year? And if you're not, why aren't you gonna reach them? So I'm supporting my members throughout the entire year to be sure that whatever they asked for, they're going to get, because that's what they wanted, not what they needed to do.
Do you have a coach, Rachel?
I did have a coach, and I loved coaching. As a matter of fact, it took me years to buy into coaching. 2 things, actually. It took me years to buy into coaching. It took me years to buy into a CRM. And the third one is, it took me, I lost my train of thought. CRM, coaching, and actually really business planning is kind of the next step for me. Yes, sorry, disc profiling, that's it. Because I know how much you love that, Simeon. So yeah. Disc profiling, has been a key part of learning how to communicate with the team. So
we're going to go down the culture path in 1 second. Where I want to ask you about coaching.
Yes.
So let's say, for example, you have a conversation with one of your team members, and they bring out the reasons they feel they're not hitting their potential, or what's holding them back, or they need support in marketing, or they need support in this. If you don't know the answer, or if you're questioning the answer that you're going to give, who do you go to for support? So again, a team leader role can become lonely if you allow it.
Yes.
So where do you go for support?
First of all, I'm a big believer in a lot of self-help books. So a lot of times I actually revert back to some of the coaching books and self-help books I've read. So one of my favorite ones this year that I've read that I encourage a lot of leaders to read is from Brene Brown's Dare to Lead. Now, she's a very analytical writer, but if you can get through most of the book, it will really teach you about your own values and how you express them and what you're hearing from your team agents. Because sometimes it's about taking your team agents out for lunch, for example, and just forget about work for a second. What's going on with you? Okay, that's number one. So where do I go? I go back to my member and I take them out of the environment, out of the office, out of a showing, and I ask them what's going on with them. Because sometimes what's holding people back is something they may not even be aware of that has nothing to do with business, okay? Secondly, I'm very proud to say that I am a member of a wonderful company, Royal LePage team, wonderful organization who has allowed us to have access and resources to some of the best coaching, some of the best managers. So I will reach out to them, and I have had one-on-one coaching provided to my members if I feel that they need to hear it from someone else, okay? Then I send them off to training. So if there's many times where I'll turn around and I'll ask them, what can I do for you? What can I get you? So we have, CNE certification and negotiation training. You've got other types of training where you talk about your personal lives or your professional, whatever that may be. And I, as a team lead, will pay and support that in order for them to get what they need to feel good about themselves and then give the client the attention they deserve.
So and this is now a natural segue into my next segment about team, and that's team culture. So if you're a team lead who actually cares, and Rachel, you are a very, very much so a caring person. Your background in social work not only proves and speaks to it. My wife is a child protection worker and social worker for the government of Ontario, and you have that background. So naturally, you care not only about people, but about the well-being of society itself. So for you to go into sales and succeed in getting people to buy into you and your character has to be easier than somebody who doesn't have that ingrained into their DNA. And we were talking about the team members now. You take them out for lunch and ask them how they're doing because you actually care. You tell them to go to training, and you tell them to focus on what they're good at because you care. What kind of overall culture does that set inside your team? So when you guys roll into the office, there's a little weekly powwow, whatever you want to call it. The tribe is in the house. What kind of culture does your team enjoy?
I would say that it really comes down to a feeling of family. So the culture is a very family-oriented feeling where it's never about the sales, it's about the service. It's never about how many deals we've done or how much money we've made. It's how many families have we helped, how many good people have been able to buy a home. And to tell you the truth, Simeon, I really do believe deep down, as many salespeople that are out there and good at that sales, I genuinely feel the best realtors out there all have a heart, okay? And unfortunately, this business, the way it is by design, sometimes we do find ourselves overwhelmed, right? It doesn't matter how small or how big of a team it is, because we care so much and we are always looking to get better at what we do. No matter who you are on the team, there's always this feeling of like, let's go there and let's do this, right? So culturally, it's a feeling of constantly growth, right? It's a feeling of caring for those individuals. We help people buy homes. People's homes are their largest purchases. Some of them, their first purchases in their lives that big. And I'm very proud of what we do for people, right? We also find ourselves in sometimes some really emotional transactions. And where I find I really try hard, even with a team of all 5 women, is remembering who's allowed to be emotional in the transaction and who's not supposed to be, right? Because how often do we find us working in a transaction and greed and ego. I mean, how many times do I have to hear somebody say, hey, sweetheart, I've been doing this for 30 years. What does that mean? I mean, every transaction, every person, every deal.
Don't you fucking call me a sweetheart, you piece of shit. That's what I feel.
My favorite is, hey, kiddo. So everybody who calls me a hey, kiddo, my response is, hey, old man. And they're like, whoa, what? And it's like, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Like, I thought if you're going to go there, I'm going to go here, right? Oh, that's not appropriate. I didn't think so. So it's always checking back with our language. Our culture is really something that I think what I'm most proud about is that regardless of whose name is on that door, everybody is part of that team, and everybody has to put 100% of themselves into it. And some people have to remember who they are on the team, right? And other people have to remember who they are on the team. So for example, our administrative assistant is a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. She gets paid for those hours. She doesn't work at evenings and weekends. So when we're looking and we're getting angry at our admins, remember what they get paid for. Remember how much they get paid versus what you're getting paid. And are you really treating them with the respect, or are you expecting respect without giving it, right? So I think that the dynamics of a culture, as a team lead, it is our responsibility to create that. One of the best books I ever read about creating your why is Simon Sinek's, yeah, you know which one I'm talking about, right? Finding your why. Because I think that when you can figure out why you're doing this, if you're going after the sales, that's great. I mean, some people do this, they sell about 6 homes a year, and this is like a hobby to them, right? And they have another job that they're doing, and sometimes they dabble about growing in real estate, but predominantly there's something else that they're more passionate about. I get it. There's one thing about real estate that I think people seem to forget is that we have this luxury of doing whatever we want with this license, right? We can go work for new builders. We can help, with infills. We can help, families, investors. We can help all sorts of different kinds of people with their real estate. We have an incredible opportunity, and I feel that some people take that for granted.
I absolutely love where you're going with it, and I don't think it's a coincidence you're standing where you're standing. You've built what you've built because your overall mentality and the way you view it is one of abundance of opportunity. Number one focus is the client experience, because without them you don't have a business, and you realize that. Number 3 is if you're going to have people working for you, you need to understand who they are, what they're there to do, and they're to further the agenda of greatness, of culture, of sharing, of family. So all the things that we're hitting, and we're going to bring it back to 2, 3, 4, 5 things to take away. But I think we're done from the perspective of talking about how your team came about and why it came about, because it's really clear to me as to why and where. And what's clear to me is I was going to ask you about your goals, and I still will ask you about your goals going from here. But I think I'm not going to take a crack at it, but I could definitely guess where it's going, and it's going to be just naturally progressing. But what is your goal? Is your goal to hit 10, 20, 30 members? Is your goal to go into your own brokerage? What's your goal, Rachel? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Well, it's a very good question, Simeon. And I think that part of where I see where we are now and where we're going, I think it really comes down to finding the right people. Because if there's one thing that I have found myself really broken about real estate, is finding the right people to join us, right? So I have tried really hard with certain people, and it came down to where's their name on the sign, how much money are they getting. It's a lot of me. So I'm looking forward to finding some really good people to really own in on some of the areas that I want to get even better at. So some of the things I want to do that I would like to get better at is more community involvement, right? Again, that's my social worker mentality coming out. I love helping the community, and so I really want to be able to help more local employers the way we have been doing it this year, helping educational funds, scholarships that we give out to young women here, or young parents, that is, to help them go on to post-secondary education. Work-wise, I'm all about the service, so I want to get better at being able to see my clients even more than I already do. So it's really hard, as we all know, being everywhere at once.
So are you looking to grow revenue and market in kind of market presence, or are you looking to just get better with the same, like you're happy with the amount of business you're doing, you're happy with the revenue, and you just want to become more tuned in and even more control over what you already have?
Pretty much. So it's taking what we already have, bringing on more people to bring it to another level. Because I think what we all go through in every year in a 365-day calendar real estate year is we have the highs and the lows, and then we go high, high, high. Well, now that we have all the systems in place, right? Now that we have the good brand, we have the credibility of who we are in Ottawa, now it's all about being consistent. Because one thing we can all say as realtors who've been around for a long time is you've seen people go up and you've seen them go down, right? I'm not up for that. I'm up for that consistent level of service. For the next 5 years, I hope to bring on some great people, some of them in salaried positions, some of them as members out with the realtor, with my clients. I'd also like to potentially find myself taking a step back from the listing side of things and actually managing it as a whole, as a higher level, right? So the one thing that I've always been scared of, and I think a lot of people will feel this way, is, oh my gosh, if I bring on more people, I have to have more business and I have to generate more leads, and I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared. And the one thing I have learned over the last, I'm going to say 5 years, especially being with the best company in Canada, is that the infrastructure the brand has provided me now has enabled me to focus on finding the right people so that as I grow and bring on more people to do what they do best, I can now really focus on just doing things like talking to other realtors, helping, coaching. I'm the first person I will take a phone call from any realtor who has a problem. It doesn't even matter.
Well, look what you're doing right now. So
I love it.
podcast that you're on right now is targeted 100% to the industry, and to the betterment thereof. I do want to share with you, like, well, you specifically know, and I don't say it all the time because I don't want this to ever be confused with a commercial for our own firm. But like we're at 33 agents right now.
Amazing.
Thank you. And our production has never been bigger. Our influence in the industry is now becoming different. Like we're actually, it's kind of like an influencer on Instagram. So the way we're viewed by clients, and when I say clients, I mean like developers, like bigger, like it's not just about the transaction to the client on the ground residential. We've just grown so many different verticals. And I think where I can personally help you personally, and this is an open invitation to every broker watching this, is if you've started a team and you are at that stage, because you right now, Rachel, you're probably about to hit critical mass at about 10. And I'm saying this because I've done it, and I was there. 5 is difficult. 10 is very difficult because you're still battling egos and people start jockeying for position within the team. And it brings other dynamics. But we've completely debranded ourselves, meaning if you want that growth in both people and culture, at some point, Rachel Hammer has to disappear. And I will tell you that no matter how much you talk about it, if my name is Simeon Papailias, it's possible that I don't want to be a rider on your sign.
Yes.
Those are the ego goals.
Today, right? What did I say the other day? Everybody knows who Ashley Madison is, right? We shouldn't, but we do.
That's right. So what I'm getting at is, and these are different choices, and it's going to depend on culture. So if you're going to go, because it's so difficult to recruit people that see past their own ego, especially in this business, because it is an egotistical business. It is sales.
Yes.
Where people believe they are the be all and end all. It is difficult to find those people who believe in the communal effect and the teamwork 100%. But I've brought on this year something that changed my life, and that was a director of team operations. So when you are at 33 agents and you are responsible for bringing on listings of 20, 30, 40 units at a time, in order to have inventory for the team to sell, like as you scale, you're going to find different problems. And I'll speak to those in greater detail later on. But what I'm saying to you is I brought on Bobby Pume, who's my director of team operations, and my life has changed drastically, meaning that he deals now, like his job description includes the weekly check-ins. So we don't, like, our culture has never been closer and better, and we've never been bigger. So instead of losing culture as we've grown, by implementing more people in support roles like Bobby, now my team is closer together than ever because I could never get back to everybody on time while still getting business,
Yes.
while still supporting my partner, while still being a father at home, while still being a husband at home. So like you have to get the help you need. So it starts with an assistant to somebody there, but you, Rachel, being now like going into 7 figures and kind of scaling that business from 5 getting to 10 and from 10 to 15, you are going to have these battles. And I am telling you now that I have the resources to share with you anytime on how to brand yourself to attract the right agents that know they're walking into a team and a family, not a competition or a Shark Tank.
Well, and I take it one step further, Simeon. What you've also done by bringing someone like Bobby in is you've also validated to your members, your 33 realtors, why they're on your team, why they're with you, and what you're doing to make them more successful.
And how important they are to me.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things we're doing right now is we're evolving by taking one of our members, Dana, who's been with me with the longest, to start a mentorship program for our new members on our team. So that way we can start taking also Dana slowly out of the transactions, right? Out of the day-to-day operations with the client, start bringing more agents on so that we can teach them how we do this business and help them understand what a real lead is, help them to get them to sign a buyer agency agreement on the first meeting, help them understand their value. Because if everybody can see a value with everybody on the team, they feel better about working on that team. So I agree with you. I think when I look at the name RachelHammer.com, one of the things that makes it really hard is the last name Hammer. I mean, with real estate, I mean, I've heard every slogan I could think of with that last name. Okay, I've heard it all, guys. But I'll tell you what, it leaves an impression. So one of the things we did 3 years ago is we incorporated. So we are Royal LePage Team Hammer and Associates, and I did that on purpose because by doing Hammer and Associates, it wasn't my name anymore,
Right.
but it was an opportunity to create like a firm, like a law firm, so a strong name that you can trust.
So my entire team structure is based on a law firm, just so you know. So Hammer, so again, like I'm going off the banner that I see behind your face right now.
I know.
If it is Hammer and Associate, so that you've now taken away the entire, yeah. So you've already removed potentially the egotistical obstacle from your way. Good for you. It's getting yourself out of your own way is all I'm getting at. Rachel.
I say this to you, Simeon, part of the hardest things, and I'm going to say this to all the ladies around, okay, young moms, young parents, and so forth. I think I'm a generation of we're hardworking individuals, parents. One of the things that has always been a challenge for me in my world of real estate is, as much as I love real estate, I always believe in being at the right pace. Right. So when I started off many years ago in this new brokerage, when I came to Royal LePage, I had a couple of guys say to me, "Oh man, you're on your way to getting to the highest level," and so forth. And I was like, I'm not even racing the same marathon you are, because I got kids still at home. And that's, for me, a huge part of it. I always remind myself that they're going to grow up and one day they're going to be gone, and the average age of a realtor in Canada is still 57. So I got a lot of time to do what I want to do with this world and with this life. So it's about managing that. And I think that that's sometimes really hard because we don't pace ourselves in this business. We either want everything or we're discouraged because we didn't follow through with what we had planned just that week or just that month. It's like a diet. It's like baby steps, right? One day, each day matters. If you could do 5 calls today, you're 5 calls ahead than you were yesterday, right? So it's all about getting further ahead and accountability when it comes to what you want to be at. And for me right now, I just want to be happy, and I am happy, and I'm looking to bring on good people who want to be happy. And
I can tell you're very lucky you're in Ottawa, because if you were here, you'd have me all over your team like white on rice. There is no way that I wouldn't have a little REC Hammer division. Let me just tell you that much right now.
So, it'd be like the counseling version, you know?
Rachel, I want to thank you for sharing all your amazing insight. I want to thank you for your time, because I know how valuable your time is. I just want to, on behalf of our entire audience, I know that a lot of people are going to enjoy this content. So thank you. I do hope that you accept our future invitations to share some of your insight on mindset and really how to set yourself up for the success that you very deservingly have gained. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. And I want to say this one last thought that I haven't
Please.
said. For anybody who's thinking about joining a team, wherever you are, right? Look at the people around you and ask yourself, who would I like to be part of, right? Who do I look at and I aspire to want to be one day, perhaps myself as a realtor? Those are the people you should be going out for coffee with or going out for lunch. Because let me tell you, anybody as a team lead is proud of where they have come from, okay? Hopefully not too proud as we all joke around about, but in a way that they're happy to share it with you. And sometimes it's not about, oh, I don't want to join a team because I want to give up some of my money or my name or my status. It's the wealth of knowledge and experience that we as team leads, right? We as teams that have been established, that's what we're giving you. We're giving you something that you wouldn't get from a coaching call necessarily. We're hands-on because if you succeed, we succeed. So it's just like when you guys go to a listing and try to overcome the seller and tell them you're the best. It's the same feeling that I think that is important that people who are contemplating joining a team, because I do believe, and I hate to say this, I see a lot of great individual agents who could do so much more, who could be so much happier if they just considered the idea that it doesn't have to be about our names. It has to be about the service and the balance that we all look for in this business.
And the relationships that you can build and leverage. Yes. So I've said this before in a different episode in a different way, but if you just can't get over yourself,
right?
If you just can't get over yourself, just think of it this way. If I were to say, and forget me, like we'll just use me as an example. If I get at least, let's call it 500 listings a year through my development relationship from developers, okay? You don't think it's a good idea to be in an environment where you consistently have inventory in a city that has none. So like, this isn't an open call to agents. I'm saying like 100% of nothing is nothing.
Right?
70% of something is a lot of money in the city of Toronto.
No kidding. No kidding. And not doing it alone. I mean, this is such a lonely business.
No, but I'm saying even to the guys who don't think of culture, who don't think, like, even if you're just thinking of your own pocket, sometimes it might be a good idea to go for a coffee with somebody bigger than you, with somebody who cares about things more than you, and maybe just understand their mindset and how they can just be a taker. You don't have to be a giver off the bat.
That's fair. That's fair. But yeah. You know what? And you're right, because I'll take it one step, especially the young ones. You know, you guys, if you guys want to, as young, you want to say to yourselves, I could do this better. I could do this on my own. I'm with you 100%. We are going to get older too. We want those young blood because you do come up with such creative ideas. But what's really discouraging is to see good young people not see their own full potential. And let me tell you, if there's one thing I learned, is that all the people around me who said, you're going to do great at this, you're going to grow a team, you're going to be good at this, I didn't believe them either, okay? And I let myself go with the flow and just say, if I just do this one little thing, that next thing is going to happen. And it came together, and it didn't have to come with greed and ego, and it didn't have to come, but as I tell every new agent who starts in this business, if you haven't cried at least once in 6 months, you're not working hard enough.
I can attest to that. I find myself crying in my truck all the time. But I do every so often. Anxiety is a bitch. Again, I want to thank you for all to those who have sat through the entire webcast. Thank you. Your feedback is not only appreciated, but I'm begging you for it. If there is things that you want us to touch on in the future podcasts and vodcasts, please do. If you want to get in touch with Rachel Hammer, Google her name, Rachel Hammer, Ottawa. She's going to be one of the leading brokers there. If you're a broker who wants some advice, or if you're a broker who wants to join a team, I've spent some very good time with Rachel, and I can tell you that she would be a great tool and a great resource and a great person to speak to from many different components. And as always, if you want to speak to me, Simeon Papa alias REC, or communityofbrokersplaybook.com, reach out anytime. Until next time, thank you so much, Rachel. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much, Simeon. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
You bet.